What's up, y'all? So Todd McFarlane had some interesting things to say here. And let me just say, look, Todd, I respect Todd a lot as far as what he did in the industry, especially in the 90s, and how he did his own thing, was really confident in his approach as well. And now we're to a point with now McFarlane Toys, all the big dogs go to him. And that's pretty massive. With that being said, taking a look, he had some things to say about the comic book industry. We're just going to listen in. It's about a 2-minute video. Let's just get right into it and listen in.
How's it look to you?
Okay, here I learned a long time ago, name's Todd only rhymes with God, right? I control one human being's sort of actions, my own. If the comic book industry as a whole wants to be super creative and come up with a bunch of stuff and expand, what I'm doing within that is not really going to move the direction one way or the other. Conversely, if the comic book industry people want to basically figure out a suicide mission, my couple books are not going to stop that. All I have control over is...
And that's a good point. So what he's saying is he only has control over himself and what it is that he does, and maybe he does some things that may get folks enthusiastic. But like the industry at large, if it has determined that it is going to go in one direction, and even if that's off a cliff, what he's doing, even though they will try to take credit and say, oh, comics are booming, never been better, everything's great, he can't stop them. He can't stop them from making those moves.
Putting out quality books on a timely basis at a fair price. Marvel's going to do what Marvel thinks is best, good, bad, or indifferent. Whatever.
And that bit, let me rewind.
Marvel's going to do
this part
is putting out quality books on a timely basis at a fair price.
Okay. That is, I think independents need to understand that, especially. Fair price. I love that he used that term and not saying like cheap, because I think some people get it twisted. People are willing to pay for something they can be enthusiastic about, something that is of quality. He also mentions the timely thing, which is very important if you are going to be a competitor. Look, I think the barrier of entry has been lowered. We talked about this in like the crowdfunding sense, and there's a lot of people that are treating it just like a hobby. They're willing to have like short pockets of success, but the aspirations aren't that big. Nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with that. I want to be very clear. However, as far as this being like a crazy competitive market where people are thriving and the market is growing, it's going to take a lot more than just straight hobbyists and that's it, doing their thing. It's going to take some grind, some grit. That's a hard. I don't even want to say it's a harsh reality, but it was something that we had to recognize with the Rippaverse. It's like, look, you're trying to be this competitor in the publishing sense, and yeah, we got one book out in 2023, and yeah, it was a bigger one, and then in 2022, and then in 2023 we got two. We're going into 2024, and I said, look, I'd like to push for having 6 books come out. And some folks are like, oh, well, that's just crazy. You're just over. No. It's about putting out quality, because not everybody's going to buy every single book. They're not going to be interested in every single book, but it's about quality as well as putting something out timely. So people are enthusiastic. They're not waiting forever to get something. So that enthusiasm is still there. And that is going to be a key component in this sort of alternative industry.
Marvel's going to do what Marvel thinks is best, good, bad, or indifferent. Whatever it is that you're doing, there should only be one goal. And this should be the same for anybody who runs sort of any company. Are you selling more of what you make? And I look at the comic book industry for the last 30, 35 years. Are we selling more comic books today than we were
not even close.
years ago? The answer is no. No.
Now, when I say that, they get mad. I brought this up. I've done breakdowns. I've shown you all the data, and it's not even close. There are things that are selling right now in the floppy sense, right? What is supposed to be this sort of, it's only 20 pages or so it's not going to cost you that much. Those numbers that are like in the upper tiers, mid tiers, those were numbers that would have got you canceled back in the day. It's not even close right now. The industry is declining. That's just not an opinion. That's a fact. And the fact that he's just acknowledging it is awesome.
So I could argue that whatever all of us have been doing is wrong.
Todd, thank the Lord. See, that's the thing that I think a lot of folks get butthurt about. Just because everybody is doing a thing does not mean that thing is successful. I've talked about that with the distribution model, right? It doesn't mean that it's working just because definitely the mega corporate entities or the companies that are tied to the mega corporate entities exist does not mean that it's working. If you just look at the trajectory or you analyze the data, you will see, okay, yeah, y'all been around for a minute, but it's not been working if you were at least comparing it to yourself in the past. So I'm so glad that he said that, because it's like, yeah, if you're looking at the downward trend, you can make the argument that I don't care who they are, the pros, it doesn't matter. What you have been doing has not worked. Whether it be with the content stuff, and I know that's more of what he's talking about with the content stuff, but I'd argue in the distribution stuff as well.
Because we've contracted. If we start putting out junky comic books, then of course the fans shouldn't support junky comic books. And then they're not going to buy them. If they don't buy them, there's not going to be as many stores. There's stores that are there are going to sell less. And if they sell less, then the publishers are going to probably want to make up. So all of it is all tied together. I think we're
it is a chain.
As good as the skill set that's out there, and some of the business decisions that are made by people who do have influence. Marvel and DC leading the charge.
I'm glad he just flat out named them. Like, yes, they are the top of the dogs, or they are the top dogs. They're the top of the chain. And they have a lot of the market share, okay? And unfortunately, everybody just repeats the same mistakes it is that they make, especially with some of the decisions that they make business-wise. But they find out the hard way that, look, they can sustain incredible losses over a longer period of time. You can't do that.
So if they want to bury this industry, they can do it. Now, here's my question. What day was it that the upper management of those companies thought they were doing a shit job?
Never. They don't have the humility.
Never. Oh, even when you're heading towards a collision, we're not very good on the business side of seeing the collision.
I know that a lot of people take it from a guy, and look, Todd McFarlane, he's going to make money regardless. He set up his infrastructure. He's similar to Mark Miller, and that he's one of the few guys, there's not that many guys. He's one of the few guys that can call his own shots in comics. 99% of the industry can't do it. They're just going to the beat of the industry. Okay. So he, in saying this, has nothing to lose. He's just being honest. And I respect it. Whether you agree with it or disagree with it, or you feel he's wrong or whatever, that's a different animal. But you can't say that he's coming from, they tell me that, right? You're coming from the spot of, hey, you want this to be true. But he's right. You got people that don't understand the business stuff. You're sitting watching them about to collide into a wall, and then they get angry at you when you point it out. They say you're crazy. What you're doing and what you're saying is crazy talk. And there's a bunch of people that are in positions that unfortunately make decisions in business that don't understand business. That's one of the biggest hiccups in comics. It's because it's such an art-driven industry. I'm repeating myself here, but it is an art-driven industry. Most art folk don't understand business. They might get in leadership positions, but they don't understand business. They just want to create for creation's sakes, okay? And that, whatever. But in order for the industry to get out of this rut, what I do believe is going to have to happen is that those few cats like Todd that understands creative stuff as well as business stuff are going to be the ones that got to lead the charge. Or it's going to have to be a mesh-up of passionate businessmen that aren't creative. And by passionate, I mean they actually love this medium. Not just getting some like random cats that have been successful in some other venture just to come do that. No. It's not going to work like that, because it is some things that you need to understand about the industry, and you need to understand the culture of it more importantly. So you're going to need either teams that have great creatives while also having great businessmen that love the industry, or you're going to need creatives like Todd that understand both of them. That's how you're going to get out the rut, because the direction that we're going right now is, either into a wall or off a cliff. You can use whatever analogy, metaphor, whatever you want to use. That's what it is. It's not going in the proper direction. And there are even people that are in the independent scene making the same wrong mistakes. Number one thing that you need to consider, I'm going to end on this note. Creatives are just that. They need direction. And with that being said, they often don't because they're wired in some cases to think about what their peers and other creators care about more than what the actual customers, which make this whole thing go round. If there are no customers, there's no industry. It doesn't matter how awesome you think you are, how good of a creative you think that you are. If there's nobody interested in it enough to buy it, your industry ceases to exist. That's just the bottom line. People need to get in that mindset. And I know people are going to get mad because it comes with a set of status. Screw the status. It's about the customers. And when you're making business decisions with the customer, not your peers, not your other creators, in mind, that's how you win, period. Alpha Core #1's pre-order is live. Written by the legendary Chuck Dixon and penciled by Joe Bennett. Visit Rippaverse.com to grab a copy and any of the merchandise items. Be sure to also check out the animated trailer for the campaign, which is the latest project from Rippaverse Studios. Y'all be easy.